Hello and welcome to Cycles of Time, your weekly guide to what's happening on Earth as we make our revolutionary journey around the sun. For time immemorial, our human ancestors have created myths and meanings to help us adapt and thrive as seasons change. Join me each week to explore the intersections of these ancient cycles, from the indigenous medicine wheel to the pagan wheel of the year, the Babylonian and Greek zodiac to the I Ching, the ancient Chinese book of changes. I'm your host, Alison Dale, and this is the Cycles of Time podcast. Hi, and welcome to Cycles of Time podcast. This is the Wheel of the Year, week 1, the first official full week of Aries season, and the title of this episode is Our Opinions Are Getting Eclipsed. This is your weekly forecast for March 3rd to 29th, where the highlights are a solar eclipse in Aries in the Human Design Gate of Opinions, that's Gate 17. Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde are both traveling back into Pisces, and much, much more. So I look at the Wheel of the Year through a multidimensional and multicultural perspective. And in the medicine wheel, spring here, we're in the direction east. This direction represents childhood and the color yellow, the sun rising over the eastern horizon, new beginnings. In the Taoist Wuxing cycle, the 5-phase or 5-element cycle, we're in a transitional phase, which is always represented by the element of earth. And we're also entering spring, which is the element wood. And wood represents upward growth, like a tree growing upward. It has that type of energy as we enter the spring season here. We just celebrated last week the pagan holy day of Ostara. And I talked a little bit about that last week on the podcast, so you can listen in to get more details about Ostara. We are now in the zodiac season of Aries, which lasts from March 20th to April 19th this year. In the I Ching and the Human Design Wheel of the Year this week, the sun is transiting through Gate 25 from March 19th to 24th, and that is known as Innocence, or the unexpected, and also known as the gate of the spirit of the self, or universal love in human design. Midway through the week, the sun shifts into Gate 17, which is from March 25th to 29th this year, and Gate 17 is known in the I Ching as following, or the Gate of Opinions in human design, and the hexagrams for that is Lake over Thunder. The moon this week, we have a new moon solar eclipse in Aries, like I mentioned, in the Gate of Opinions, and that is on Saturday, March 29th. As far as planetary transits, I don't go too deep into these, but a couple of important ones are Venus and Mercury both retrograding back out of Aries into the sign of Pisces, and Venus retrograde enters Pisces on Thursday, March 27th, and then Mercury enters Pisces on Saturday, March 29th. So yeah, this week we've got a juicy mix of astrological events and human design gates that the sun is transiting through as we deepen into this astrological new year. And there's a lot of depth to explore. From Mercury and Venus retrograding in Pisces to the solar eclipse in Aries, we're definitely looking at a potent week for personal growth, reflection, and the shifting of core beliefs and opinions. I don't know about you, but the astrological new year and spring equinox last Thursday, the 20th, really felt like it brought a ton of new energy into my sphere. And even though we're in an eclipse portal and have two personal planets, Venus and Mercury, retrograde at this time, at least Mars is not retrograde anymore. That's moving forward. But we're definitely in a bit of a moment. It's definitely a kind of intense time all around. So if you're feeling a lot of feels, if you're deep in it right now, that is where you are supposed to be if the stars and planets have anything to say about it. This last week on the 20th, on the spring equinox, I launched my new membership offering, which I'm calling Embody the Revolution. And I'm really excited to begin walking the wheel of the year together in community. Thank you all so much to those of you who have signed up already. There's definitely plenty of room for more, and you can join throughout the year. And I definitely invite you to join if you feel called. The membership is activated by becoming a paid subscriber on Substack, and it's just for the price of a fancy coffee per month. It's like $8, and that's definitely maybe a cocktail. Cheap cocktail, expensive coffee. But it's a really cool offering, in my opinion. It includes a detailed workbook for each zodiac season, which I've had a lot of fun putting together for Aries season, really just detailing all of the transits in astrology and human design, as well as the elemental energetic signatures of the season. And the membership also includes weekly recorded somatic exercises, a monthly live breathwork session to tap into the energies of the season, and also a monthly reflection session to gather and discuss how the season has showed up in our lives. So you'll also get a calendar of the astrology and human design transits of the year ahead that you can integrate with your Google Calendar and just have it show up with your events to see what is happening in the year ahead. So it's a lot of goodies. That's enough promo for now. I really hate doing this, promoting what I'm doing, but I love the stuff that I'm making, so I just have to put it out there. I feel like launching something during Venus and Mercury retrograde and in between eclipses might not be the best time to put something out there, but I did want to honor the wheel of the year and begin on the astrological new year. And so this just happens to be the astrology of the moment. It's not lost on me that there's just a lot of heaviness in the world and a lot going on. So it can feel really hard to put something out into the world, but I do deeply believe that we all need to continue to exercise our creative muscles and dream the world that we want to see into being. And for me, it's coming through in this offering right now. So I'll put the link in the show notes if you're interested in learning more about Embody the Revolution, and thanks for checking it out. So on to this week in the skies. This week, we're exploring Mercury and Venus retrograde into Pisces and taking a deeper look at the solar eclipse in Aries, which falls in the gate of opinions. So those are the main things we'll talk about here, and let's get into it. So let's start with Mercury and Venus retrograde in Pisces. We know that retrogrades in general are kind of like cosmic timeouts a little bit, kind of times where we want to review, recalibrate, rewind, re-envision, reimagine. All of those re-words are really important for any kind of retrograde. And yeah, it's kind of a very good time to slow down. I always think of the red tint with retrogrades, where in a menstrual cycle, traditionally in various cultures, there have been times where we are given space to go inward and be with ourselves and review and reflect instead of continuously moving forward. And our culture, Western capitalistic culture, doesn't provide for that in the 9 to 5. But I do feel like by paying attention to retrogrades in the cosmic cycles, if we can, really giving ourselves some space to do that review and reflection process about the area of your chart where those planets are showing up. You can look to your chart to see where Aries falls and Pisces falls, because these two planets, Mercury and Venus, are retrograding from Aries back into Pisces in your chart. So those are the two houses of your chart that will be affected by the Mercury and Venus retrograde and that are currently in the mix of review and reassessment. And if you don't know what houses are in your chart, you can pull your birth chart at astrosomatics.com on my website, or plenty of other places online where you can pull a free chart and kind of check out where those signs of Pisces and Aries fall in your chart. And so that's important to look at during this time, because these are areas where we want to do a little bit more review and recollection and reflection. So with Venus and Mercury, we're looking at both our emotional realms and our intuition and our spiritual connections and our thought processes. And Mercury retrograde in particular is kind of about revisiting the past, particularly with how we communicate on a deeper and more intuitive level. So Mercury rules over how we express our ideas and how we process information. Mercury is known as the messenger of the gods. The Hermes Mercury archetype can go between worlds. And so in Pisces, that energy is moving away from logic and the realm of feeling, imagination, and dreams, all things that Pisces is known for. So over this period, as we retrograde back from Aries into Pisces with Mercury there, don't be surprised if your mind starts to drift towards past emotional or spiritual or transcendental experiences during this time. When Mercury was retrograding back through Aries, it was a lot more about how we use our agency, how we use our intellectual communication prowess for our own kind of Aries initiation. And then going back into Pisces, regardless of where it falls in your chart, it's going to be more about communication on a more etheric level. So this is a great time for introspection and revisiting old dreams, maybe keeping a dream journal or diving into some art or poetry or creative projects that you've abandoned. So revisiting those Pisces communication themes. And if you'd like to know more about where it's showing up personally for you, then I'm always available for a reading and you can get more information about specifics there. So Venus retrograde in Pisces, different from Mercury, is bringing a more of a reflective vibe to our relationships and our values. Venus rules our connections with other people, as well as our aesthetic taste and what we value. And in Pisces, it's about examining the more mystical and dreamy aspects of love and romance and what brings value to our lives. So a good question to ask yourself during this period of Venus retrograde in Pisces is, have you been giving love to yourself the way you truly need? And are you aligning with your deeper soul level values in your relationships? Relationships are the place where values come out and become apparent. We are forced to, and hopefully have a desire to reflect on our values as we build relationships with other people. So this retrograde in Pisces invites you to explore those areas about your values within relationships. Sometimes during Venus retrograde, old romantic patterns or partners come back into your world, and unspoken emotional wounds can resurface during this time. Related to Pisces, it can be about how we merge with others, how we interconnect with the world at large, and a lot about boundaries, a lot about how we show up within our relationships and advocate for ourselves and our boundaries or not. So during this time, I would say don't rush. Just let whatever comes up come up and give yourself as much time as you can. It is the astrological new year and spring, and sometimes there's this urge to really get going. But this year in particular, it's time to set aside some time, if you can, to really reflect on your relationship values, how you merge and interconnect with other people, your spiritual values, and how those work with other people, and how you communicate them. This double whammy of Venus and Mercury that are now going back into Pisces after a period of Aries. It might be nice to look at how that showed up for you with Venus and Mercury in Aries over the past couple of weeks. How has the reflections of your agency and your communication regarding to Aries themes shown up? So best of luck. I'd love to hear how your Mercury and Venus retrogrades, as they overlap in these signs of endings and new beginnings, are showing up for you in your world. Moving on to the solar eclipse at 9 degrees Aries on March 29th, this upcoming Saturday, in the Gate of Opinions. As we know, Aries is the bold, pioneering, and fiery leader of the zodiac, and that is where Venus and Mercury have just been retrograding back through. So communication and values and relationships as they relate to that boldness and that agency may have been coming up a lot over the past couple of weeks. And so now that we have this eclipse, the solar eclipse in Aries, it is the beginning of the zodiac. So solar eclipses here can symbolize a moment of change, a fresh start, a reset, and a chance to break free from old limitations. So this is the final eclipse in Aries after 18 months of eclipses on the Libra-Aries axis. Eclipses always happen on an axis across the wheel of the zodiac, and the nodes of the moon have already moved into Virgo and Pisces, the next axis. So this eclipse will wrap up a story that began in fall of 2023 when the Libra-Aries axis began to be activated by the nodes of the moon. So during a solar eclipse, the moon, which symbolizes our emotions, our instincts, our body, the subconscious, during a solar eclipse, the moon obscures the sun momentarily. And the sun in astrology represents conscious will, identity, and vitality. And so this celestial event of the eclipse here disrupts our usual flow of awareness and forces us to confront deeper, hidden feelings that often go unnoticed in the bright light of our rational mind. For me, I look at eclipses as if our emotional body takes over. You know, the moon comes in front of the sun and passes over, and with a lunar eclipse, the shadow of the earth is shown on the moon, kind of obscuring the moon and the light of the sun. Lunar eclipses are kind of more about grounding into the earth and the events that are happening beyond our will or our emotions. But with solar eclipses, it's a lot about bringing focus to the moon, and kind of eclipsing the ego's direction and our conscious, forward-directed kind of solar mind. And so solar eclipses invite us into a liminal space where profound shifts can occur. I've definitely heard about them as if you're in a room and someone turns the light off, and then everything in the room is kind of rearranged and the light goes back on and everything's different. It is a sudden and very poignant, amazing astronomical event. In Aries, the impact of this emotional overtaking of the ego, this embodied emphasis that obscures the ego for this moment of time, it can be really fiery and initiatory. Aries is ruled by Mars, and it's this planet of action and instinct and agency and self-assertion and war and a lot of really powerful things. So Aries thrives on bold moves, independence, and unfiltered expression. During an eclipse, though, the usual Aries drive may be temporarily interrupted by deeper emotional undercurrents. So Aries and Mars are known as kind of, just like it's spring. We're springing out like a little sprout, like I said last week, springing out of the earth. And so it's about forward momentum. And so with an eclipse here where the moon is shadowing the sun and overcoming the sun, the emotions of what that feels like to be in this new reality, to come out of the womb or out of the soil and into a new beginning can feel really emotional. And we can feel a lot of wisdom about that in our body and not just focus on our minds, although Aries is the ruler of the head in medical astrology. And so we have a lot of focus on our head at this time of year. So this eclipse really brings us back down out of our head into the rest of our body and the other organ systems that are also deeply wise. So this eclipse suggests a moment where raw instinct is not enough, that raw agency is not enough, and we need to pause and examine the emotions and subconscious patterns that influence our choices. A lot of times there's manifestation on a new moon. It's a good time for planting seeds. But in the case of eclipses, manifestation is generally not a recommended practice to really set intentions that you wish to see grow, because it is a time to really just absorb what the universe has to offer us during this time. So it's a time of noticing. It's a time of reflection, especially in all this retrograde energy, but not necessarily a time of manifestation. We can start that next month when we have a new moon that is not an eclipse. This eclipse potentially could reveal some latent anger or suppressed desires or unresolved identity struggles. Aries is all about identity and who we are as people as we come into the new cycle. The sun in Aries really wants to charge ahead with horns blazing, but the moon's shadowing the sun could create a temporary emotional reset which pushes us to question deeper motivations behind our actions. So it all tracks with Venus and Mercury having retrograded back through this. We will be kind of familiar with this energy at this point, whereas in past Aries eclipses over the past 18 months or so, that wasn't the case. And so with this, it's like a capstone to this energy of really reviewing and reconsidering and noticing how Aries shows up for us. We all have Aries in our charts. Even if you don't have planetary activations there, we all have Aries at a certain part of our charts. And so we can start to pay attention and notice how we are acting when it comes to that self-assertion and putting ourselves out into the world. Are we acting from a place of self-awareness, or are we reacting from wounds and insecurities? That's the question. So I love to, on the lunations, when there's an important lunation, a new or a full moon in the month, I love to look at where the specific human design gate is showing up. So the human design gates are kind of micro seasons of the zodiac season. That's how I like to describe them, which is there's about, 5.5 human design gates per zodiac season. And so they're kind of like a smaller subsection of that season's energy. So we've talked about Aries, and now we can talk about gate 17, which is the second gate of Aries season, where this eclipse is showing up at 9 degrees Aries. So as it's a new moon, both the sun and the moon are sitting in human design gate 17, the gate of opinions. And this is known as following in the I Ching. And this gate in the human design body graph is located in the Ajna or third eye center. The gate of opinions is all about opinions, having opinions, ideas, and pattern recognition, different patterns of thinking. Since it's the second gate of Aries season, it's about being open to the world, kind of like a young lamb. The first gate of Aries season was 25, innocence, or the spirit of the self, which was like a newborn lamb coming into the world out of the last cycle, very fresh and filled with love and just open-eyed and innocent. And this next gate is like the evolution of the lamb as it grows up, grows little tiny horns, and starts to traverse through the world. And recognizing patterns. It still has that openness. It still has that innocence, but it's starting to form perspectives through experiences and conversations that it's having with others out in the world. So this gate and this energy this week asks us to be aware of whose opinions we're really following. And with so much openness, like a young lamb turning into a ram, it's important to have a willingness to follow and to learn. We are new to this world. We're new to this cycle. We have to remain open. And so there's definitely positive indications within the I Ching that if you stay open and follow, then you can really develop positive attributes. And a failure to listen or observe others will have negative results at this time. And that's from the I Ching. But it's also important to really notice, who are you following? Do you trust who you're following? Are you just picking up everybody else's opinions as your own? And where do your opinions come from? That's definitely some energy of what's going to be happening this week that we'll not be feeling in our bodies with that moon eclipsing the sun, where it's less of a conscious will of deciding that, but recognizing how that feels in our body. In the gene keys, gate 17 corresponds to gene key 17, which is known as opinions at its shadow level. And the shadow level is based on kind of fear that we bring to the energy. And at the gift level, it's known as farsightedness or detached understanding. And at the city level, it is known as omniscience or perspective. So at the shadow level of gate 17, some things that might show up during this eclipse emotionally are noticing dogma and fixed opinions and the areas where we're holding on to beliefs that come from outside ourselves and don't necessarily serve us. So this is the energy of I must believe this because that's what everyone says, or this is the only way to think. So this eclipse might reveal some dogmas that we're holding on to and that we're attached to, and kind of reveal how they're not necessarily showing up for us anymore. So the shadow of gate 17 can keep us stuck in rigid thinking and outdated beliefs, especially when we're not questioning where those beliefs came from. So we move into gate 17 on Tuesday, the 25th this year, and the sun is transiting there through the 29th. So that's where the eclipse shows up at the end of this, at the last line of this gate. And then it'll move into the gate of the hunter and the huntress after that. But so throughout Tuesday through Saturday, we're experiencing this energy, and then the eclipse might really just make it show up in a really emotional or embodied way. So it's not all bad, though. It's partly getting attached to opinions, but once we transcend kind of the fear-based attachment to rigidity and holding on to opinions, because we're an innocent baby ram that needs to know what's up in this world. Once we transcend beyond that to the gift level of detached understanding or farsightedness, we can step back from our fixed opinions and see things from a broader perspective. Really recognizing all the patterns of all of the different experiences we're starting to have in the world as we move through the world, as we get our legs and we start to kind of adjust to this new cycle. And so this energy of the gift level of gate 17 is about being able to entertain ideas without getting attached to them, and not holding on too tightly, but letting different opinions from the world, different experiences flow through you, and being open to ideas, listening to others, and just not getting too attached to them as the only truth. This is especially relevant with the solar eclipse energy, which asks us to shake off our outdated beliefs and open up to new ways of thinking. There's the city level in human design is like the transcendent level as far as kind of reaching a spiritual understanding of this energy. And this is all about omniscience or perspective, where we can see the bigger picture through that pattern recognition. It's like that third eye, looking at the world from this deeper knowing that's not all mental, but it's this kind of deeper understanding of consciousness, where we realize that opinions are just opinions and they don't define us. This transcendent energy of gate 17 invites us to rise up above the many, many, many opinions that are out there in the world and tap into our own clear vision of what is true. And that's through experiencing a lot of other people and a lot of places and a lot of situations, so that you can form that opinion through instinct and pattern recognition. So during the solar eclipse, we're invited to listen to our bodies and our intuition and let go of rigid opinions about what we've been holding on to. This eclipse is asking us to embrace a new perspective and be willing to question opinions, question other people's opinions and our own, especially if what we're thinking or believing doesn't any longer align with who it is that we are becoming. This eclipse brings a huge opportunity for mental clarity, where we just let go of opinions that have become too dogmatic and shed old beliefs during this year of the snake. Lots of shedding. Eclipses, you hear that word shedding and releasing a lot. And this is an emotional attunement. This is a way where we can look at emotions in an intuitive and embodied way. And by doing so, create space for a more authentic and empowered way of thinking moving forward. So whether you're somebody who's been carrying around an old family belief system or a belief that comes from some institution outside of yourself, you might be realizing that some opinions you've been holding on to just don't fit anymore with the current version of yourself, as we're always evolving. And so this is a wonderful time to let go or just loosen into welcoming other opinions and perspectives in with that kind of omniscient, beautiful synthesis of opinions that you've encountered throughout life. This solar eclipse is offering us a powerful opportunity to break free from outdated ways of thinking and create a fresh and more aligned perspective on life. It's really important to stay open to new ideas, kind of have this detached, I don't like the word detached necessarily because it feels passive, but it's really more of this kind of zoomed out, like magic eye kind of situation, is a kind of where you're not focusing on all the details, but having a broader perspective and bringing different opinions together without getting emotionally attached to any single one of them. So this doesn't mean that you need to change your mind about everything, but it's a moment to be open to seeing things from lots of different angles and let go of what doesn't serve your higher vision. With Mercury and Venus now retrograding in Pisces at the time of this eclipse, Mercury goes back into Pisces on the same day as the eclipse. So it's important to use this time to reflect on your emotional beliefs about love and relationships and communication, and look into the opinions that you hold there, the rigidity that you hold around patterns that you might have been following in relationships just because it's what you know, but maybe they don't align any longer with your true essence or your current values. So you trust that the universe is inviting you to clear these emotional patterns now so you can step into a new era of emotional and relational freedom. So to wrap it all up, this week is a big one on that Aries Pisces cusp. We're in the new year, we're in Aries season with the sun being here, but there's now these other two closest planets to us, Venus and Mercury, going back into Pisces after a dip into Aries. And so it's kind of like not all systems go in this astrological new year by any means. It's an eclipse and Venus and Mercury retrograde and bringing us back into that energy of reflection surrounding both our agency, our Aries qualities, and our ways that we are interconnected with the greater whole, which is the Pisces qualities. So it's a perfect chance to review and reflect and give yourself space. Take a bath. Take a nap, journal, be reflective. Don't try to do too much or set anything in motion too much. I say as I'm launching a whole membership thing, but I'm taking it easy on that. So this is the energy. We have to really feel into how we relate, how we love, how we communicate, how we express our spiritual truths. And so this week is all about seeing things from a new perspective, releasing fixed and stuck opinions and welcoming new ones in and setting yourself free from old ideas. So the key themes of the week are releasing, realigning, and reimagining. And as we sail through this cosmic energy, remember to just be gentle with yourself. It's a time right now of big, bold changes and quiet reflections at the same time. And it's hard to hold them both sometimes, but they're all leading you to a higher version of yourself, being more in service to yourself and to the community and the world at large. So that is your week of the year, week 1 cosmic update as we move steadily forward through the cycles of time. And I'm just curious what you think about it, how these energies are resonating with you. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And I hope that this brings you some clarity as we navigate this major cosmic shift of the year. Feel free to drop a comment or share your thoughts. I'd love to hear how you're experiencing this powerful week. Have a beautiful week ahead. One final thing I did want to mention is that I'm hosting a new moon solar eclipse breathwork session on Zoom this upcoming Saturday, the 29th, and it's going to be at 6 p.m. MST. It is part of the Embody the Revolution membership, and it's also open to whoever would like to join. It's a conscious, connected breathwork session where we tap into the revolutions within our body, breathing into our belly and chest and letting it release. And also, it's going to be guided with some intention around Aries energy and releasing stuck patterns of thinking and beliefs. So I hope you'll join me. Again, that's on Saturday the 29th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and I'll post the link in the notes.